Hey everybody, it's Shizug, and I wanted to bring you a meta update today. We recently had our patch this Thursday, and a couple things changed about the way that the game plays out, and I've been seeing these changes happen in some of the high-level games that I've been in or watched, and I wanted to bring this knowledge to you so that you could implement it into your games and get some more wins. So the first thing to note is the expansion of the map. The map now between the outer lanes is significantly larger. It takes a long time to rotate from one of the inner lanes to the outer edge on each half of the map respectively. In my testing, it's about 5 extra seconds or so that it takes to rotate. But those 5 seconds, in terms of a MOBA and when every second counts, is a huge deal when it comes to the planning of your game and the macro strategy that goes into it. For instance, we learned a lot about early game rotations in some of the previous videos in the Breaking the Deadlock series, and it's not quite the same situation anymore. You can't quite rotate between lanes on the blink of an eye or use one ability to get here and there. It's more of a methodical choice that you need to make now. And what I've been doing and what I've been seeing in the high level games is that people are building move speed. They're getting all sorts of different move speed items to make sure that they can aid their rotations to be faster. Move speed was already a pretty important stat in this game, but it got even more important with this update. That extra distance that you have to travel between lanes, if you can tighten that distance up, you're going to be in a great spot. As we see here are some of the move speed items that you have as an option for you to buy. Obviously, any of these options are beneficial, but the big thing that I'm seeing people pick up is sprint boots and then enduring speed after the fact. Looking at the post-game summary of high MMR games, you'll see sprint boots or enduring speed in almost every single player's inventory now. With the exception of some heroes that are already getting mobility into their kit or they already have it very baked in, like a Pocket or the Majestic Leap or something like that. That's kind of the exception to the heroes that are buying sprint boots and also enduring speed. But what it does for you is it can shorten the rotation between lanes by quite a lot. You can go from an inner lane to an outer lane. Instead of in 15 seconds, you can make it somewhere around 10. If you build in some movement tech that we talked about in previous videos, you can shorten that even further. And as I said, sprint boots and enduring speed aren't the only options. They're definitely the go-to ones, but also something like a healing right early game is really going to help out that rotation speed too. While healing, you actually get 2 sprint speed, so that is an awesome option to take so you can heal up in between lanes and also make that rotation time faster for yourself. So not only are we seeing people itemize differently, there's also a playstyle difference now. The time it takes to rotate to fights that are going on in the center of the map, if you're on an edge lane, is a lot longer now, so you really need to make sure to utilize teleporters around the map as well. Recently in the patch, the duration that it takes to start a teleport reduced from 4 seconds to 3 seconds. So this is going to make teleporters even more of a vital part to rotate around the map. Instead of just relying on items to change that or positioning yourself on lanes, you can also use the teleporter to traverse the map quickly. So you might be wondering, why did Valve expand the lanes? If you remember Soaking, another video that we talked about that mechanic, it's actually back. The same bounty sharing that was going on with lane troopers before 10 minutes is back. But Soaking was still nerfed because of the map expansion. So they stretched out the space between the lanes to give us the logical kind of splitting that's going on. They stretched out the space between the lanes, so it's not punishing to go help someone defend a guardian, but it is punishing to try to double dip on both waves at once. It's harder to do, if not impossible. So the soul splitting mechanics that we saw change last week, they have been reverted back to how it was. Things are normal again. The other thing I want to talk about that's drastically altering the early game is the lack of starting with a boost for your zipline. Now your zipline starts on cooldown, which is 5 minutes long. So what this means is if you want to quickly go back to base and come back to lane, you're going to be gone for a much more significant amount of time compared to prior. I would even say that it's honestly better to die in lane than it is to go back to base and come back. You should probably stick it out and try to secure as many souls as you can, because that trip back to base is probably even longer than it would take to die and come back that way. And now I'm not saying go feed your lanes intentionally because you don't want to take the zip line, but what you can do is you should buy more regen. Remember we talked about healing right earlier? I've been buying healing right in almost every single game, even if my lane's going fine. Because not only is the sprint speed going to be beneficial for you, it's also going to let you regen in lane and stay in that lane longer. I would say you're griefing the game if you go back to base and come back before the 5-minute mark. Itemize to stay in that lane. We also have to think about this as the attacker's point of view. If you're the one that's already been putting pressure on the lane and you see someone go back to base or they're healing righting, that is your opportunity to really abuse the fact that they are kind of stuck in this awkward position. And this was obviously true before the fact, but now it's extra punishing and you can take that opportunity to punish someone who's sitting there in that scenario. And lastly, we now have Mirage in the game, the new hero. To give you the TLDR of Mirage and some of the tips that I've been using in my games to play him more effectively, here they are. The first tip that I have is that Tornado is an amazing lockdown spell on a very low cooldown. So abusing the low cooldown and going for kills often with Tornado is a great way to utilize the spell. You can pick up an early Echo Shard, which has a very similar cooldown to Tornado itself, and you can chain it back after one another and lock down a hero for around 5 seconds. And 5 seconds in a MOBA is so much time for a lockdown. And it's not a full stun. It's simply a root that's going to keep them there and stop them in place, and they can debuff remove it or something like that. But the timing that you can use Tornado at is so early that they're not going to be able to itemize against it too early, and you can snowball off that advantage. His Tornado did just get nerfed, but he's still a strong hero in my opinion. Another tip is that in lane with Jin's Mark, his passive, you essentially want to hit all of your targets that are visible once and continuously stack that buff on everyone in sight. If you can continuously tag a hero over and over, you're going to keep stacking that buff on them and they're going to take a lot more damage. But what you want to do is you want to cyclically go through all the different units that are there because there's a period of time that it takes to reapply that buff. So if you're laning versus Mirage, you want to break line of sight with him if he's starting to get that stack higher and higher. His damage is a multiplier, and it's going to do exponentially more damage as he tags you and you don't break that tag. I see a lot of people making the mistake of just kind of tanking the Jin's Mark and just getting 8 stacks on themselves in lane and then just popping and then being really confused as to why they just died and got nuked so heavily. Lastly, his ultimate Traveler is very, very good on this new patch as well. We talked about the expanded map. Traveler lets you teleport to anyone on the map that you can see, enemies, allies included. And in a map where making rotations just got a lot harder, this hero can capitalize so well on being able to teleport anywhere on the map at once. If you have a Mirage in your game, you need to keep a really good mind about if you're taking a one-on-one engagement, it's not always a one-on-one engagement, and the Mirage can get there at any second. All right, everybody. Those are my early patch insights that I have and I wanted to bring to you so that you can better win some of your Deadlock games. Let me know if you want to keep seeing stuff like this in the future. I want to make analyses of patches and some of the changes that I'm seeing in the metagame and talk about those rather than go through the patch notes or something like that. But recently, we went through all the patch notes on my live stream and we went through line by line all the different changes and kind of discussed them a little bit. So if you want any more insight to a specific line from the patch, you can go check that out. There should be a VOD on my YouTube channel or also on my Twitch. Additionally, thank you to all 10,000 subscribers. It's awesome that that number got reached. It's kind of mind-blowing, to be honest. I never really thought I would have 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I'm very grateful for each and every one of you. It's honestly mind-blowing that so many of you chose to continue to watch my content, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And with that said, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you have a good one.